We are also joined by Rickhuss of Tata Steel, the UK Union Head of Tata Steel. Roy, appreciate you joining us. We've just now been told that Cyrus Mistry has been replaced by the Tata Sons board. I know that in the past when we've spoken, you have expressed your displeasure on how long it's taking to resolve the problems as far as the European business is concerned of Tata Steel. What do you make of this development? And are you more concerned now that the implications or this, the process of actually sorting out chorus is going to be even longer?
Well, first of all, can I just correct you on one thing? I do not work for Tata Steel Union. I work for, in the UK, our unions are independent. My union...
That's right. Sorry, my apologies.
We're the union that represents the
community.
That's
right.
UK.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, first off, I have to admit I'm quite shocked and certainly very surprised by the news this morning. None of us was expecting it, and it has come out of the blue. The concerns it gives me now is where does this leave the whole process of the European businesses when clearly we have been following, or Tata Steel have been following, a process in Europe since certainly since March this year and probably before March, where at first we were put up for sale on the 29th of March. Then we were told that there were a number of bidders who wanted to buy the business, but nothing materialised. Then we were told on the 8th of July, no, sorry, you're not up for sale anymore. We are going to consider a joint venture with the German steel producer Thyssen. And at the same time, the specialty side of the business, which is quite significant and employs probably 3,000 to 4,000 people directly and indirectly, that's not part of the joint venture. That's still going to go ahead with a sale. And here we are now, fast approaching November, and we know nothing. I have been critical of Tata in the recent past by the lack of communication and information that has come to the workforce in the UK and Europe in particular. I do talk to my Dutch colleagues, and they agree with my sentiments. We are no really any clearer today on what the direction for the European businesses are than we were before. However, with the news that's come out of India today, I would actually perhaps say something that you might find slightly strange, because now I think it's time to put the whole thing on hold, to pause and reflect. And actually, we will be seeking urgent meetings at the highest level. We will be writing to Ratan Tata himself and saying that in light of these developments, you need now to take stock of what your direction and your strategy for European business is. Are we still following the strategy that was developed under Cyrus Mistry, i.e. the merger with Thyssen, or the joint venture with Thyssen? Are we following a different strategy? So now is the time for reflection, and I think Ratan Tata should take the opportunity to come, or we're happy to come and meet with him. He should meet with the European workforce representatives and try to explain to us now what is the strategy, because we don't know what the strategy is now, or whether we're still following the same strategy developed under Cyrus Mistry. I'm sure you will understand my concern as a representative of the UK workforce. My concern is for the future of the UK steel industry. So I do think it's time that we reflected on the strategy that we're now following.
That's very important, Roy. So you're saying that you intend to write to Ratan Tata seeking clarity on the strategy going forward, and perhaps you believe that the best thing at this point for everyone involved is to pause and take stock of the situation, because things haven't really progressed over the last few months.
I do think, I mean, although I've been critical that things haven't been moving fast enough, that's because we were following a particular direction and things weren't moving quickly enough in that area. However, in view of this change, and it's a very, very, very significant change right at the very top of the company, we need to know now, is this still the strategy that we're following? And yes, we will be writing to Ratan Tata with immediate effect, asking to meet with him for that clarification. And at least the workforce in Europe, and in particular the UK, because that's who I'm here to represent, need to understand what is now the strategy, because clearly this news in itself will cause concern, and it will cause worry amongst the workforce as to, well, has Cyrus Mistry left?
Well, that's Rickhuss. They're the head of the UK Workers' Union, saying that they will now reach out to Ratan Tata directly and ask him to clarify what the strategy will be with the UK operations. But let's go back across to our colleague Nisha Poddar. As we've been reporting, one of the pain points in this equation has been the way in which the Docomo matter has been handled. Nisha's back with us. Nisha, you've been reporting on this, and that clearly seems to have been one of the areas where there has been serious differences in approach. What more do you now know on the Docomo matter and how that could have led perhaps, or could be one of the issues that has led to Cyrus Mistry's departure?
Thanks for that, Shireen. Of course, yes, we've been saying that Docomo matter is one of the very big points of friction between the old guard at Tata Group and the new guard. Now, what we do gather is that in the last-ditch attempt, when things were really getting very ugly between Ratan Tata and Cyrus Mistry, in the last-ditch attempt, Cyrus Mistry met with the top officials of Docomo on October 22nd in Singapore. He was part of the four-member Tata Group and also including the legal head of the group, Bharat Vasani, who has been really spearheading the entire legal fight with Docomo for $1.17 billion of their claim for exiting the Tata Tele business. That particular bit, so there was a huge discussion that really took place between the Tata Group's top officials, Cyrus Mistry leading it, and Docomo's top officials. But we do gather from sources with direct knowledge of the development that this particular meeting turned out not to be fruitful. In fact, they did not leave on very cordial terms, and that is one of the big reasons why Docomo has also initiated and pressurized their own Japanese government to speak to Indian government to get this particular bit sorted. In fact, Docomo has expressed in the past that they would rather deal with Ratan Tata, under whom this whole contract was signed, rather than Cyrus Mistry, who has been taking it forward as a legal battle instead of a reconciliation. So the last-ditch effort by Cyrus Mistry was as early as 22nd of October in Singapore. So these are the latest details that we're gathering, Shiri.
Okay, Nisha, thanks very much. Let's go across now to Suhel Seth. He's been with us for large parts of the evening as the story has unfolded. So, Suhel, since we last spoke, this is the information that we do have, that the resolution to replace Cyrus Mistry, and the word was very carefully used of replacing him and not removing him, and that's what we understand that legal opinion was sought on as well in the drafting of the resolution itself. That, of course, was moved today. It got 6 affirmative votes while 2 directors abstained. We also are given to understand that perhaps informally the decision to remove Cyrus Mistry was taken about a fortnight or so ago. We also are given to understand that Ratan Tata did meet Cyrus Mistry privately ahead of the board meeting today. In light of what we do know so far, there's management issues, there are murmurs of some ethical issues as well, Suhel. This looks like it is going to be a protracted battle.
Not, because, you know, the Tata Group, the House of Tata, epitomizes good governance coupled with compassion and a deep sense of nationalism. It is a corporation that defines brand India in many ways. I think, Shireen, as you said earlier in your program, and you were really transparent, I have to admit that CNBC played a tremendous role in retaining ethics of journalism. I think it's too early to conjecture. All I can say is, knowing Mr. Tata, the little that I do, he wouldn't ever take a decision that would be 3 things. A violative of the natural principles of justice. He wouldn't do anything in a hurry, and he would do it only if things came to such a path where he needed to step in to hold the culture, the vibrancy, and more importantly, the value architecture of the group. So we need to wait to see why and what. But the most important thing is him returning to the helm, I can tell you, mustn't have been easy for him. Because as I said, he had moved on to a life which was to encourage young people to invest in startups. So it's not that it's not that he desired power. Please remember, he was the one who actually brought in the age rules when he took over. So, you know, I think as Lata and you both said earlier on your channel, we need to wait and see. But in all measures, it's a step for the right direction. Because knowing Ratan, he's a man who carries people with him, who's very, very concerned about the value systems and the governance principles. And I don't think he'd compromise that for anything in the world. Sorry.
You know, Suhel, what we are also given to understand now is that the Executive Council, the GEC that was set up by Cyrus Mistry when he took over, stands disbanded. In fact, of the 5 members, 2, that's Mukund Rajan and Harish Bhatt, I think will be absorbed within the Tata Group, but perhaps the future of the other 3 is uncertain. Do you also get a sense that maybe this GEC was being seen as bigger than the board, perhaps, as you know, above the board, in fact, even?
In its more than 110 years of history, there was never a GC. There was a board. It was a board-managed corporation. The board had people of impeccable credentials, as they do today, whether it's an Ajay Piramal or a Nitin Noria or a Ronan Sen. And I don't think the board could and should have been surpassed. And if it has, which one would imagine, you know, you wouldn't create a group executive council and not give it powers. So if it has and if it's been disbanded, it's keeping in line with the tradition of governance and of deep transparency that the House of Tata has always believed in.
Suhel, you know, as someone who's known the Tata Group since the early 90s now, what do you believe is going to be the challenge? Because, you know, this is going to play out over the next several weeks. They are going to have to look for a successor. It's not going to be easy to find one. Ratan Tata, of course, is back in the interim. A lot of their businesses, not because of the sectors that they're in, TCS, for instance, there's trouble for the IT sector in general. Steel, of course, we know the story. But what do you believe will be the immediate challenges that Ratan Tata faces now as he comes back as interim chairman?
You know, I mean, it sounds a bit risky or bizarre to say that. I don't think there are challenges because it's the return of a man who every person working in, for, with the House of Tata believes in. The sagacity, the respect, the trust which people have in him, including shareholders, including the general public, is testament to the fact that he will bring not only stability and reassurance, but he will bring back the imprint of culture and the way things should be done. So to that end, I don't think there are going to be any, there's going to be any turbulence whatsoever. Of course, there'll be people who will comment on these things with precious little knowledge of the issue. But having said that, I don't think there are any challenges except to find a successor who is enshrined in not only the values of the House of Tata, but is prepared, as we said, future ready to take the Tatas to the next level where Mr. Tata left it at. So that's how it is. We will look for angles and conspiracy theories, as I'm sure people will want to. But having said that, I don't think that's going to be a major issue.
Okay, so just hang in there. I'm also going to go across to Kate. Yes, go on.
I don't want to sound emotional, but as a person who's been involved with them since a management trainee in advertising, I can tell you it augurs really, really well. It couldn't have been a better person.
It augurs really well for the Tata Group to get Ratan Tata back. Okay, hang in there, Suhel. I'll come back to you in just a second. We're also joined by Ganesh, the founder of Growthstory and the promoter of Bluestone. Remember, Bluestone is a company in which Ratan Tata has put in his money. Remember, Mr. Tata has been one of the most sought-after startup investors, and Bluestone is one of the companies that they've invested in. Thanks very much, and appreciate you waiting by so patiently for us. As this story has broken and the news is developing, as someone where Ratan Tata has invested his time and money, what's going through your mind?
No, I think Ratan Tata obviously is an inspirational leader, and we in the startup ecosystem were very happy in the last 4 years to see him active actively investing in Bluestone is one of my companies. I've also invested in 3 companies along with Mr. Ratan Tata in addition to Bluestone. It is great for us to have his undivided attention and support. Amount of money is only one small part. It is a great inspiration for entrepreneurs and founders who took selfies with Ratan Tata, who could actually talk about it in public. And whenever we met him, and I met him as recently as 10 days back, spending full half a day with one of the companies, he's really has got the vision and is able to motivate people to go forward. So purely from a mercenary perspective of startup ecosystem, I wish him well to get a new successor and come back to our side rather than the corporate side as early as possible, 4 months or 6 months. We will miss him in the startup ecosystem.
With the end of Ratan Tata, the serial startup investor, isn't it?
Traditional industry. Yeah, no, absolutely. But one of the things which we are looking forward to this development as a positive development is that given his exposure to the startup ecosystem deeply, where I'm just not talking about the money, he spent time with entrepreneurs and founders. I'm hoping that that culture will translate into some of the Tata companies now that in the interim period when he's the chairman. I think the traditional companies needs it a lot to infuse a startup ecosystem, and that has never happened with any of the large industrial groups. Maybe now having a deep 4-year association with venture funds, with startup, with founders, we will see a lot more startup entrepreneurial activity within companies like Tata Motors and Tata Steel and other companies. I think that can be a positive outcome, but we will really want him back into the startup ecosystem fully.
Well, that's an interesting perspective that Ratan Tata, with his startup experience, or at least investing in startups, is probably going to go back more energized with the notes that he's taken from the startup world. But Suhel, yes, you had a point to make.
You know, it's very interesting that on either side of the spectrum, we have 2 business leaders who will now know the space of what I call future technology so well. A Mukesh Ambani on the one hand, a Ratan Tata on the other. These are people who will drive their businesses into the future, and nothing augurs well, not only to complete the Prime Minister's vision, but also to make India as progressive as it should be. So I'm an optimist. I don't see this glass half empty. I see it 3/4 full.
All right, gentlemen, let's also go across to Farah Bookwala Vhora. She joins us from outside Cyrus Mistry's residence, where I understand that security has been beefed up. Farah?
Yes, absolutely. So it's been a day of heightened activity at the Tata Group, and you know, it's the same case even at his residence. This is the Pallonji residence at the elite residence of the Pallonjis, where Cyrus Mistry resides with his father as well as his elder brother. What we've understood is that the police has been specifically deployed today. We can see about a police van and a couple of people being, a couple of police guards being deployed, as well as security forces have been beefed up. However, we've not been able to find out if there has been any sort of movement into the bungalow or not, and the security guards also rather apprehensive about people who've been approaching them to seek more information and to solicit more information about Cyrus Mistry's whereabouts, given that news has trickled in, and a lot of people in the area are now realizing that Mr. Mistry is out of the Tata Group. Back to you.
All right, Farah, appreciate you joining us. So Farah Bookwala Vhora there, getting you live visuals of what is happening outside Cyrus Mistry's residence.